to for us to escape from these monster floods.
Okay, so you're passing the bulk to the federal government, but the federal government says it has already told state governors about this prediction and also for them to prepare ahead of time. Is it something the state governors are supposed to do, or the federal government? And if it's not the federal government, so what can the state governors do? Because some states are said to be not viable and so cannot handle such kinds of catastrophe. Of course, when it happened in Bayelsa State, we could see the Bayelsa State governor go cap in hand to the federal government for help at the time. So what can both agencies of government do to ensure that measures are put in place so we do not have this constant flooding every time?
Well, thank you very much. We have a desertification in the north, and then the federal government is taking care of that from time to time. We also have oceanification here in the south, the Atlantic coastline. Then we have this monster flood issue. The ecological fund is domiciled in the presidency. That fund needs to come down. We need to see it work. Well, there is a community here in Bayelsa State where last year I led a team of media people for us to go and see for ourselves, where the ecological fund was properly used to do shoreline embankment, both at the back of the community and at the shoreline. And that community can never be affected by any monster flood. That community is called a Madike community in Ogbia local government area. The fund came from the ecological fund. These are the type of things we are talking about. Yes, the state has something to do, but what are the interventionist agencies doing? The Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, what was it created for? What about the NDDs? These are interventionist agencies that need to take on big projects, not 6 classroom blocks or solar lighting system for our people, things that local governments can do. We need these interventionist agencies to collaborate with state governments to do real capital projects that will be in the interest of our people, not palliatives. So, talking about the Bayelsa State government, yes, the Bayelsa State government has set up a flood and erosion control agency, even though in 2018, the Environmental Rights Action demanded for the establishment of a full-fledged flood and erosion commission to take on these issues head-on with proper collaboration with the interventionist agencies in the country and overseas, properly backed up by law. But the agency being set up by the Doyetri-led administration is a step in the right direction. And we'll continue to advocate that it is stepped up to a full-fledged commission and backed by law. So the Bayelsa State government, like I did said, has upgraded the sections of the road that were destroyed by the 2022 monster flood, provided culverts, and even created bypasses in some areas. If you go to some other communities like OD, I was also there, I led a team of media people last year, because we believe in evidence-based advocacy. The OD community is one of the largest communities in Bayelsa State. Right from the beginning to the end, on the waterfront, they have provided a 1.5 meter or so structure to protect the community from any flood that will come into the community. This is not real shoreline protection, but to prevent flood from entering the community from the non-river. Unfortunately, in 2022, a section of that embankment failed, and within 30 minutes or about an hour, the whole community was flooded. And when I visited last year, around August or thereabout, the government was working on that place again. You see, so the government is trying to do, even though there is room for improvement, to do quite a lot in our communities. But the state government alone cannot do it alone. If the ecological fund is being provided, is released. I also know a community in Bayelsa State where in Tombia, about 2 years ago, I learned the ecological fund is sponsoring a project there on shoreline protection. That job has not been completed, and so when the 2022 flood came, the whole of Tombia was also affected. So we need a well-coordinated approach to this issue, whereby the federal government agencies and the state government will collectively deal with these monster floods that we're experiencing. We are not saying flood is entirely bad. If flood doesn't come in places like Bayelsa State, some of our locals won't be happy because we also have some benefits in terms of the means of livelihood of our people. There is flood time fishing. If you go to our farms, our swamps. Those swamps are dry during the dry season. But during the rainy season, they become flooded. People can paddle their canoes anyhow. And that is why our natural ponds prepared in the swamps get fish for people to go and harvest during the dry season. Without the flooding those places, you won't get those ponds with fish. So there are benefits too for flooding.
Right.
So, yeah, but the monster flood is our problem, and we need a concerted effort, a collaboration.
So that's where my next question is actually headed. When you're talking about concerted efforts, surgical operation towards addressing this matter at its root, what exactly do you want the federal government to do? I'm here looking at a report, and there are talks about dredging of some of the creeks. Is that what you're talking about? In specific terms, what would you like for government to do?
Yeah, first of all, I did mention when Cameroon started the Lagdo Dam, the Nigerian government was advised to come up with its own, and that was the Hausa Dashi Dam. The federal government should go back to complete that project. That will help a lot. Dredging of the rivers, no problem about that. Most of our rivers are still deep, while sand is collecting in certain areas and making certain areas very shallow. We can also do canals, artificial rivers, to redirect some of this water. When the pressure of the water is coming, this water can find different routes to enter to lessen the pressure. Because this monster flood, when they are coming, they come with pressure, quite unnatural. It's not like the natural flood. And before it gets to this area, if we already have our natural flood here, and it is coming down here because it is going into the Atlantic Ocean. And Bayelsa State occupies the largest stretch of the Atlantic coastline from Brass local government, Southern Niger local government, and the Kirimon local government. And we have the largest number of rivers in the Niger Delta, all sending water towards the Atlantic Ocean. And that is why the pressure is coming all the way from the north. By the time it gets to Lokoja, and the Lokoja people are overwhelmed, we know that it must get here. And within the next 1.5 months or thereabout, it will hit us here. But before it gets here, already we have our natural flood here. That is the problem. If they are releasing that dam water in the dry season, we will not have any problem. It will just come and then go normally and flush into the Atlantic Ocean. But before it comes here during the rainy season, we already are in the rainy season and in the flood season. So government should first of all deal with the Hausa Dashi Dam, see if we can get artificial rivers or canals constructed after proper environmental impact assessment, so that you do not take one problem, trying to solve one problem, and it causes problem for another people. The land belongs to the country, and we should study where should we direct this water, and where the water will also be useful to people in that area if we direct the water to that area during the flood season. So all these are measures. The experts will give more advice from their stock of knowledge. But I am speaking as an environmentalist who have been in the field for some years, and I know what I'm talking about. You see, so the government should sit down. We've not heard since 2012 that the federal government and the states have sat down because of flood. I've not heard that they have sat down to discuss the issue of flood. Rather, they are talking about palliative. Incidentally, President Bola Tinubu, during his campaign, he came to Bayelsa State and also promised that this flood will be a thing of the past. And so we want to appeal to him to match his words with action. It is becoming too much like a broken record. The people of Nigeria needs relief from monster flood. We know it is happening in advanced countries too, but we want to see action. After you take the action and we still have these floods once in a while, we know you have done your best, and then we'll look for further solution to address the issue. But for now, I think all states are also admonished to do their best to ensure blocked drains are cleared. But when monster floods come, it is not about just blocked drains. It is not about blocked drains, but they need to be open so that as the water reaches here, gets to that point, it will be moving. It won't stop. It is when the water stops and gets